Introducing computer programming to your kids can be a challenge, especially for those who aren't familiar with code. Fortunately, in the last few years, a number of apps, software, and books have been created to help the often complex subject of coding be easy to grasp for young learners. I'm your host, Nicole Martin, and this is Talk Digital to Me, where I explore the latest trends and topics in digital, tech, AI, and online media, and hear from those working in the industry. Today, I will be speaking to someone who is helping students learn how to code using fun activities. This is Episode 7, Interview with Adrienne Tacke, author of Coding for Kids, Python. There are many reasons that teaching kids to code can really benefit them. Steve Jobs once said, "I think everybody in this country should learn how to program a computer because it teaches you how to think." Right now, programmers are in high demand. Learning to code will increase your child's odds of not only getting into college, but then afterwards securing a lucrative STEM career, especially in a world where STEM jobs are growing at over twice the national average. Coding has been proven by many studies not to just improve problem-solving skills, but also help with creativity. It helps give them the ability to turn something they've envisioned, like a new video game or app, into reality. One of the most important skills to be gained from coding is patience and discipline. Coding can be frustrating at times since it's so complex, but the satisfaction when you achieve it is so great. It teaches students that discipline and concentration can be really rewarding. My next guest is encouraging children to start to learn to code at a young age with her new book, Coding for Kids, Python, where she teaches essential Python skills to kids at ages 10 and up with 50 fun and engaging activities. She is here to talk about how this all came about, so stay tuned. I am here with Adrienne Tacke. She is a Filipina software engineer in Las Vegas. She is also the author of the newly released book, Coding for Kids, Python. She enjoys leading by example and sharing her knowledge to help new devs become great ones. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I wanted to talk to you because, you just released your new book. So I wanted to talk to you about, what your background is in software engineering and tech and how you ended up falling into that field.
Sure. So I started out actually not knowing I wanted to be in tech. I wanted to go into some sort of job that would allow me to travel because I love to travel. And at the time, when I went to college at UNLV, I signed up as a pre-major for international business because I assumed that would allow me to be the next Anthony Bourdain. But when I learned, I did the classes there and then I saw that that doesn't actually guarantee you a job like that. I panicked, but I immediately started looking for something else. So the whole introduction I got into tech was actually when I was looking for a job to, make some money while I was going to school. And one of the jobs that was open there was a student technician job for the university's Office of Information Technology. So that's actually where I started in the whole tech industry. And that job was more of a help desk role. So, if you needed your password reset or something was wrong with your computer, I was the one to troubleshoot it. And it was actually there where I'm like, wow, you actually can get paid for this kind of stuff. So that's where I kind of got my first introduction into general technological aspects and more of the IT side of things. Around my sophomore year of college is when I got a software development internship, which again was only found by working this job. So I cite that job as a very, very important part in my journey into tech. And I applied for it and I got the internship, which was awesome. It was a paid internship too, which was super rare. But that's really where my software development journey really started. And at the time, I did not know anything. I was super scared to ask any questions. I was just happy that I even got the internship. So I was very focused on not trying to screw up and trying to prove that I belong there. But yeah, that's kind of where I started. I'll fast forward through my journey in that I started there, and by the time I graduated college, they did extend a full-time position to me there, which was awesome. And after that, I kind of grew, not, I wouldn't say stagnant, but once I learned more about the different types of development that you could do in the software development industry, I knew that what we were working on at that time was not really where I wanted to go. So I started to look outward and looked for other jobs. And from there, I actually took a junior developer position in a healthcare company. And that was really, really hard because, going to school, building those relationships, kind of getting to know the industry and getting to know the software development team there, it's really hard to just kind of leave that. It's comfortable. You know what to do, what not to do, you know which people you can get along with, which ones you don't. And so that was a really, really hard step for me, a scary step, but it was absolutely crucial. I think if I did not do that, I'd probably still be there. And not to say that that's a terrible thing because they have great benefits, but I wouldn't, I would not have advanced technically in my career if I hadn't made that jump. And yeah, up to now, I've jumped in several other positions as a software engineer, software developer. They kind of call it the same thing here. But I write code and I create applications and I solve problems. So just want to make that distinction a bit there. But yeah, and then I went through a couple different industries. I learned a little bit at each. And now I'm here at a company called Debt Trader, which is a fintech stable startup that I'll call. And I'm really happy with what I do here. We're mostly a Microsoft shop, and I've been working on the next iteration of a cloud platform that they have built. So always presenting some interesting challenges every day at work.
Wow, that's really exciting. It's funny how most people I talk to didn't think about getting into tech. They ended up in it somehow, started in marketing, started in other things, and then kind of fell into the tech world. And I think that is probably going to change, because of all the tech jobs that are out there. I think, kids now are kind of knowing about these things when we really didn't. So, I mean, tell me about what inspired you to write this book, leading into that.
Absolutely. So it was funny because I've always been thinking about it, and it all started with my Instagram account, which, at the start of this current job that I have, I was never even on Instagram. And so I'm like, oh, let me see what this is all about. And I found some coding accounts and some software engineers that were women. And I'm like, hey, that's me. And so I decided to join in and kind of share my story because at the time, which was about almost a year and a half ago, that I started looking, I would go through and try to find some people similar to me, but I didn't really find it. And so I said, well, I might as well share my journey and share, this new chapter in my life and just learn Instagram. Really, that was the real goal, was to learn what Instagram was about.
Yeah.
So, I would consider myself, and if you see my Instagram posts, I'm definitely a little bit more feminine. I like to make that known. I don't necessarily like to gatekeep in the sense that you've got to look a certain way, or I like to say there's no developer uniform, right? But it doesn't mean those things have to be mutually exclusive. You can, I can wear the heels and the pencil skirts and all that, and we can get into that later, but you can also still be technically apt and be very good at your job. It doesn't matter that you're wearing things that people don't usually associate with, very technical people or software engineers. And so I started my Instagram account to kind of share that, to kind of say, hey, it's happened to me enough that I'm sure other women and girls kind of feel that way, that if they were, as feminine as me, or like to wear things, or just even felt that they didn't belong there because people said the same type of comments, I decided to share that. And a very important part of that was not just to post pictures of myself, in heels and skirts, because anybody can do that, but to also provide some very valuable knowledge with those posts to, pretty much turn that stereotype on its head and say, look, here's a generically, pleasing or pretty picture, but there's also some freaking technical knowledge in there that could actually teach you something. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really wanted to build that and make that be a very, very important part of my brand, I guess. All that to say, that's obviously skyrocketed. My Instagram account has grown since then. And the publishers that I work with now actually reached out to me because of my Instagram account. So it all fell in line because as I started to grow, I started to concentrate and focus more on trying to provide value in my posts. And at the time, I was really struggling because I wanted to pack so much information into my posts, and on Instagram, the main focus is the photo. So if you are one of those awesome people that takes the time to read the captions, great, then you'll actually get a little bit more value from the content I post. But when my publishers contacted me, it was right at that time where I was kind of like, what should I do to kind of put my efforts into something better, something where the effort that I'm putting in will be greater received? Because Instagram, I put a lot of effort into it, and maybe it won't get as much engagement as someone who just has just a nicer photo or something that's a little bit more pleasing. Again, no one really focuses too much on the captions. So they reached out to me and they said they really loved how I was presenting both the feminine side of being very confident in how I represent myself, and while also not being afraid to show that I, am teaching technical topics, sometimes very deep technical topics that might seem intimidating. And the company was looking for someone to write a book for kids. The reason they were very, very interested in me was that I don't think they've ever had a female author for a technical book before. And this was also their very first technical book that they were writing. So it was very, very flattering and I was very honored to get that phone call initially when they asked me to write this book.
Yeah, I bet. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about the coding that you chose. It's for Python, and people who don't know coding very well, Python is, a language that you can learn, and there's other ones that you can. So is Python your expertise? Is that why you chose to do it? Or was there a different reason that that's the programming language that you chose to write for the kids?
Yeah, in all honesty, it was the publisher who chose the language. So in the beginning of our negotiations, I actually wanted to write a coding for kids JavaScript book or some sort of introductory book to help new developers. But what this company or this publisher focuses on is actually using some data science to see what books are actually needed and where they see a real need, or if they see a spike in people researching specific topics, they kind of hone in on that. And I thought that was pretty cool on how they decide which books and which topics to write for. So they had a set topic in mind, which was that coding for kids Python. And I'm not surprised because Python is certainly taking off with how many things you can use it for, as well as how easy it is to learn. But that was very, it wasn't a difficult choice for me to continue on with it, even though that wasn't my main language, because it was another thing that I could learn along the way and hone. But also thinking back on it now, that language is actually a lot better to teach children at that age level. So the age level for the book recommended is 10 and up. And it was already very difficult to kind of consolidate and interpret certain coding concepts to explain it to a kid. So in hindsight, I'm actually really happy that we chose the Python language because it's very easy to read. You don't have to worry about additional things like in JavaScript, you talk about curly braces and how you bracket your functions and separate them and organize them. And in Python, because it's based mostly on spacing, you can just kind of focus on the code and really see what it's doing. And that's one reason why I think Python is easier to teach kids. So yeah, most of that was